One of the main things that I struggle with personally as someone with dyspraxia is when friends and family want to go out for a meal at a restaurant. It's not really a scary kind of event to happen, but there are so many different reasons as to why someone with dyspraxia would feel uncomfortable with doing this. There's quite a few things that you need to bear in mind about what happens at a restaurant. There are usually quite a lot of people there. Very rarely do you come across a restaurant where there aren't many people there, especially considering the time that you're going at. It's usually of an evening. Some restaurants as well are very different with how they space their tables and chairs out. Some of them are quite a fair distance away, whereas some of them are very close together, and this is something that I find very, very uneasy. I recently went to an all-you-can-eat restaurant in Reading called Cosmo, which is amazing, by the way. Not a sponsor, just saying. And all the tables and chairs are spaced very close together, and the idea at Cosmo is that there's basically loads of different areas of food that you can get, so you will often make lots and lots of trips. And the first time I went, it was okay. It was around people that weren't really paying attention to others, but this was more of like a family get together, and so leaving the table was quite difficult because I was knocking stuff off of other people's tables. Well, I say other people's, there was luckily no one sat there, and I was just knocking off like cutlery, loads of just stuff that was on the table. That's kind of embarrassing because if there was someone sat there, I've just knocked their stuff on the floor that they're eating with. Gross. You're having to walk to different areas and having to pick food up and put it on your plate, and then you're having to balance this plate and take it back to your seat. Luckily for me, I didn't have an issue with that, but I know some people would find that very, very challenging. It's very, very well known, and if you don't know already, people with dyspraxia suffer with fine and gross motor skills, which isn't to do with cars, it's basically your movement. Fine obviously being little things, and gross meaning like big things like walking and such. Luckily for me, like I said, this wasn't too much of an issue, but it became an issue when I was getting back to the table and sitting myself down, and maybe one or two things fell off my plate. No biggie, but the big major thing that really actually upsets me quite a lot is when I'm eating my food. Now at home it's not too much of an issue because the people that I live with obviously know what my food habits are like, and it's basically like eating with a child, but I don't really recognise this until I'm with other people that I don't feel comfortable around 100%. Now I find myself quite comfortable around a lot of people, but there are some things that I'm just really insecure about, and this is definitely one of them. I mean, sure, we make jokes about how I'm basically like eating with a child, I need a bib, I need a placemat, and those jokes are great and all, but actually, deep down, I am kind of upset about it, because I'd like to be seen as an adult. I'd like to be able to be an adult that doesn't need help when they eat, who's not going to be expected to stab themselves in the face with a fork or spill their food everywhere. It's tough. It's not just, oh, you know, I've spilt food, this kind of sucks. It's noticing other people noticing. And that's fine, like, if someone drops food, it's like, oh, they dropped food, that's kind of funny, but then it gets to a point where it happens constantly, and actually, it's a huge insecurity, it makes you feel upset. And even though these other people around you aren't reacting, you can't help but wonder, what is it that they're thinking? Are they kind of like, wow, how is this person not able to feed themselves? It's like being with the child. And the thing is, there's no saying that they're actually thinking that. They may be okay with it, but being someone who's so insecure, you can't help but think that. The other thing about being at restaurants that I find really difficult is that when there are other people there are people having conversations, there's clattering of food, and, you know, when it's a family event thing, people are there to communicate with one another. Because I can't focus on just one thing at a time, I'm hearing everything around me. I'm hearing the clutter of plates, other people's conversations. The room is just generally filled with noise that I cannot get around. I would never turn down the opportunity to go to a restaurant with friends, because to me friends are so important in my life that I would take any opportunity to be around them. I will always be self-conscious of it. Sometimes I'll purposely buy food that I know I'm quite good with, so like pizza for example. It's hard to spill that everywhere, although I will still find a way. But my most recent experience, and to be fair it was too delicious to turn down, was Chinese food. Noodles, rice, you know, that just went everywhere. I kind of did feel self-conscious about it, and then kind of like, why did I choose this kind of food? But then I remembered that, you know what, I like this food and I like these people and I'm happy for them to judge me. I just have to hope that it's in a good way. I don't know, it's a tough thing. I think my most embarrassing restaurant moment was quite recently actually. I went on a date for the first time with my current boyfriend, so it was a little while ago. But I spilt my drink everywhere trying to pour it. That's another thing, I hate pouring drinks. Usually I now let him do that, but at the time I was like, you know, I'm an adult, I can pour this myself. And it went everywhere and it was kind of like, this is embarrassing. But you know, we can laugh about it now. I want to know your most embarrassing restaurant stories because I imagine there are some. Everyone has an embarrassing restaurant story. Whether you have a disability or not, everyone has one. Please put it in the comments below. I can't wait to hear them. Okay, well, that's me for today. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.